안녕하세요. ITZY. It feels like they've been just going nonstop forever now, right? I mean, they were on tour, and then they had the Kill My Doubt comeback, which there was Bet on Me, None of My Business, and Cake. So 3 music videos for that. Then there was the Japanese release with Ringo, right? And I believe there's more, like that's an EP in and of itself. And now they're already back with Untouchable, right? This latest comeback. And there's been 2, as far as I know. There was Mr. Vampire, and then there's the actual Untouchable track. That's, I mean, it really feels like nonstop, right? Like they must have been working on this as soon as they got done with the tour, maybe even starting before, at least on some of this stuff, because it's it's a lot of stuff if in a pretty short amount of time. So they've kind of been going nonstop for a while, it seems. But let's see, Mr. Vampire. This I don't know what to expect. Let's see.
아주 상쾌하게 번쩍 잠에 섞인 기분 기지개를 켜며 발을 내디뎌 난 찾은 걸까 true love 분명히 멋진 날이 될 것 같은 걸 이건 사랑일까 우린 영원히 영원할까 yeah 난 느낌이 와나 혼자 뭔가 다른 듯해 하얗고 예쁜 티 점점 더 달콤해진 my path 새들처럼 연애 새벽 모조리 묻혀 있었어 땅속 깊숙이 하긴 사랑 그따위 피곤했어 너를 만날 때까진 어서 나를 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire 하나하나 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire The real is fading heaven 우린 너무 잘 어울려 Mr. Vampire 수줍은 그 face 용기 내 be brave 이대로 날 놓치면 미치게 후회한다 Don't you know you have the superpower 걱정만 하도 너와 함께 하고 싶어 oh, 내 맘을 읽어봐 simple 어렵지 않거든 oh, 나의 마음을 맞춰봐 이미 힌트는 뭐 충분한 것 같아 하얗고 예쁜 티 점점 더 달콤해진 my blood 새들처럼 뛰는 heartbeat Fight me, fight you, boom boom 연애 슬픈 모조리 묻혀 있었어 땅속 깊숙이 하긴 사랑 그따위 피곤했어 너를 만날 때까지 어서 나를 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire 하나하나 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire The real is fading heaven 우린 너무 잘 어울려 Mr. Vampire 같이 춤을 출까 창백한 피부가 햇살에 그을리도록 구릿빛 눈부시도록 느껴봐 이 순간이 떨림 끌려 참을 수 없어 좀처럼 야야 입 맞춰 for the first time 우린 바보처럼 사랑밖에 몰라 연애 새벽 모조리 묻혀 있었어 땅속 깊숙이 하긴 사랑 그따위 피곤했어 너를 만날 때까지 너를 절대 놓치지 마 Mr. Vampire 사람들에게 물어봐 Mr. Vampire The real is fading heaven 내가 제일 어울려 넌 Mr. Vampire
Man, this was really cool. Very kind of like funky and a little bit weird, right? There's but now I see the reason for all the red hair color. You know what I mean? Like I think Yeji probably had it going for first. I mean, all the recent, stuff that I've seen going back to, what was it? Probably like the holiday performances. But even Ryujin's got sort of reddish highlights going in the hair. Like the visuals are incredible. I don't know what Ryujin's doing, but she's she's totally just bias wrecking, unless she's your bias, you know what I mean? But I'm like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. She has an similar, when she comes in the verse and she has some of those rap lines, at least the first half of it, she's got a similar sound to what she had in None of My Business. More of like a little bit more breathy, a little like it has like the dynamic is very measured, and it's more, almost a speaking type of voice, right? But there's even a little bit of vocal fry in there, really from keeping intentional, like a deliberately lower amount of air passing behind it, right? So you get this softer kind of delivery, but it sounds great. It's just her voice, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's but I first noticed it in the None of My Business video and song, right? It was that particular approach. Okay, because it was a bit different from what I've been used to hearing. A little bit more projection and stuff behind Ryujin's vocals, and at least going back, right, historically, let's say in the earlier works. Chaeyoung's high note in this is I was like, it's so you just know it's coming, you know what I mean? And it reminds me of Cake too. She also had a fantastic high note in that. She creates the peaks of these songs, and this one was like you could feel it coming. You just knew that, and I was waiting for it, and then she went up there and hit it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, there we go. Now, I know I'm in like this ITZY groove right now, right? Because as soon as she hits that high note, man, it's like, that's always something I'm waiting for. But the only thing is that Leah's not back with the group yet. I hope she returns soon, man, I because this is really cool. It's an awesome composition. The mix, this really interesting. It sounds different. It sounds very different. Let's see. I mean, when they came out with Bet on Me and None of My Business, those were like, okay, this is a bit of a change up from what I am familiar with as far as ITZY. This is now in another direction though, but it's a very cool mix. We got some big 808 bass. It's in 4. You can count your accents on the 2 and the 4. It's a pretty narrow hit. It's not like a clap or snap, but it's something very, very narrow, and not quite a snare hit, unless it's just like super compressed and tight. But there's a bit of a shuffle rhythm in there, right about maybe the third beat. So it has this nice syncopated pattern, and really only the accents on the 2 and the 4 aren't huge. They're like a pretty light touch over the top. So it gives it a very like unique type of feel as far as the rhythm that's at play. The 16th notes are present in the percussion and also in that sort of fluty sounding like fill, do 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 do. It's I think it's maybe like a synth flute, but it sounds like the pitch might be swept a little bit, like the wind it up a little bit higher and then sort of bring it back down, and so it gives it this wonky kind of sound to it. Like it feels very I don't know, just strange, right? Like it feels otherworldly, I guess, right? To be the sort thematically represent maybe the sort of vampire creature that they're sort of opining to, right? But it has a quirkiness to it that it fits with the vibe, generally, like ITZY. But there's something about their expression, their presence, I think, that like it seems a little bit more, I don't know, grown up, right? I said this like when the Bet on Me music video dropped, it just felt like ITZY's all grown up now, right? And I was like, oh man. But well, now that they're there, I'm like, oh my goodness, some of this is stimulating, right? I guess that's the right word for it. But let's see. Bird sounds, right? Bird sounds in the beginning, and it doesn't match the space. I'm noticing there's like a sound of either water or air. If the water is in like a waterfall, it's a constant, almost droning sort of pitch, and that could be wind or moving across a microphone, which you kind of hear the texture, right? That's shh. It's either that or it's water, and there's reverberation off of the surfaces around it. I'm not sure, but it's a sound that doesn't match the clean, very symmetrical interior that we've got. Like this sounds like it should be pretty contained, right? Like this should be a pretty liminal space as far as like the sound and the different characteristics here. But we're getting an outdoors kind of a sound at this point. And 3 and 4.
상쾌하게 번쩍 잠에 섞인 기분 기지개를 켜며 발을 내디뎌 난 찾은 걸까 true love 분명히 멋진 날이 될 것 같은 걸.
Chaeyoung really set quite a pleasant tone at the start of this. There's these opening lines. She's also has a very measured dynamic delivery here, right? There's a little bit more airiness to it. She's not trying to project that full voice yet. And then you notice those little flourishes on the piano, right? It seemed like it's at least an octave, right? And I can't tell. It sounds fairly chromatic too, though. So it's just like an ascending run all the way up to the octave on it, right? And it's so quick. It's not even... Because let's see, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and this is somewhere in between 16th note and like 32nd note. It's incredibly fast, and it happens to fit within like the space of maybe a couple of beats, which is why it lines up so well. But it's a very strange element. It's cool, like it has that nice shimmery type of feel to it, right? And it adds a lot of color. It's a very colorful sort of overtone that's going on here, but it's very like counterintuitive, like it's unexpected, right? And I don't know why it works, but it just works. It's very polyrhythmic. Nice harmonies on this pre-chorus section here. So we move to the pre-chorus, so we start going back and forth between two chords, right? It does it. It's about, I think, 3 times, and then we move on to the next chord, so probably something like a 5, and because we're gonna get a resolution going into the actual chorus section here. But great vocal lines. For Chaeyoung's the beginning, right, is fantastic. Set a great tone. And now as we move into the pre-chorus, Yeji has initiated the increase in the dynamic level now. She's got much more projection behind her voice, but there's some incredible vocal harmonies that are going on. And there's one voice pan a little bit more right, there's one voice pan a little bit more left, and at certain lines, one is coming up above or forward of the other, and they kind of alternate back and forth. So it's giving you this spatial what do you say, just using space, right, to kind of emphasize the the dimensions of it here, but it's really cool. A lot of this, it's very like I don't know, perhaps mystic, or they're playing around with the idea of space and the idea of time a lot, as if something is appearing and then disappearing and then reappearing again. But it's really interesting, man. It's like really, really, it's strange, but like not in a bad way. Like it's actually really intriguing and stays entertaining, but it is not expected. Like most of the stuff that I'm hearing in here, it's like, how in the world does it make sense? Like it does. I don't know why though. It shouldn't, but it does.
여느 새벽 모조리 묻혀 있었어 땅속 깊숙이 에이 하긴 사랑 그따위 피곤했어 너를 만날 때까진 어서 나를 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire 하나하나 깨물어봐 Mr. Vampire And we're always waiting never 우린 너무 잘 어울려 Mr. Vampire 수줍은 그 face 용기 내 be brave 이대로 날 놓치면 미치게 후회한다 Don't you know you have a superpower
What's with the visuals? What's with the looks? Like, oh my goodness. She's doing the vampire thing. But you notice her delivery on it, right? And she has an excellent part in the hook as well. She's killing it, dude. Ryujin is, man, she's reaching new levels, at least in my book. But that quirky sort of fill that came in, right? That wonky sounding do 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 do. That's such a strange thing, similar to that piano fill that goes on, because it's like, what are we doing here, man? Like it's. Hold on, let me listen to it again because I'm trying to figure out. No, a little bit further back. Let's see. No, even farther back. Okay. So the deal is that there's two chords, right? And the first part of that, the beat da da da, that's on one chord, and then it's sort of antecedent consequent on the next chord. Do 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 do. It's something descending and then ascending. It's a bit of an arpeggiation that's going on. It's just a like weird and wonky like synth flute sound or something. I'm not even sure. That might actually be like some sort of pitched percussion plugin with a really weird compression reverb thing that's going on. To give it like this bouncy, like strange echoey kind of feel. There's a hollowness to it. There's like there's a center of that sound that feels like there's a lot of space there. So that's why I'm thinking something like a flute or a wind instrument, but it could be a very specific production technique on some sort of pitch percussion thing, because the it's so clean moving from one pitch to the next, right? Like one note in the arpeggiation that's going on. It's very, very fast. So something a little bit more percussive might actually be what's going on there. But it's supposed to be a sound that is somewhere in between. Like it's supposed to be one part this and then one part like a totally different thing. It's supposed to be counterintuitive and make you kind of go like, what is that?
I
just wanted to sing Ryujin again. Nice. Okay, so Yeji pretty much killed it in those. I was too. I probably didn't even register because of Ryujin the first time around, but Yeji was absolutely destroying those high notes there, man. Like those were some fantastic lines. Yuna's kind of putting a finishing touch on the I guess this verse section here. But that was incredibly good, dude. That was really for being so high up in the register and keeping it so full, right? This is one of the things that makes K-pop music kind of demanding and difficult to do, is the highness of these notes, man. Just the absolute pitch level of the lines that you have to sing, and not just hit the note. Like sometimes you have to sustain, and sometimes you have to go back up to that note or even higher, and so it's not as easy as they make it seem, that's for sure. But she had a fantastic part right in this verse here. Drum fill. They keep switching her eye color, don't they? Like in some of these shots, it's like a light blue, right? And it's like, oh my goodness. She's gorgeous, man. Ryujin is ridiculously gorgeous. So I can't tell if that's an octave on that bass. The bridge is pretty much just like the light percussion, some snaps. You got the vocal lines that are going on. But the biggest part is the bass that's going, these big sustained whole notes, right? But there's a higher sounding synth that is above this bass sound. And it could be just independent synth keys that are like just playing the chord over the top of it. It almost sounds like some sort of digital octave on the off the bass, though, like maybe a couple of octaves above it. And it's just because of how clean it is. It's like the way that it layers over the top of it. Like everything is just really, really clean off of that sound. It could be synth keys just being played over the top, though. For the first time 우린 바보처럼 사랑밖에 몰라 연애세포 모조리 묻혀 있었어 땅속 깊숙이 하긴 사랑 따위 피곤했어 너를 만날 때까지 너를 절대 놓치지 마 Mr. Vampire 사람들에게 물어봐 Mr. Vampire We only dream in heaven 내가 제일 어울려 넌 Mr. Vampire. There it is. I hardly even could keep up with the subtitles all because I didn't want to take my eyes off of Ryujin and the rest of the girls. But I mean, my goodness, incredible. There's definitely an ongoing evolution as far as ITZY's sound and what it is that they're doing now, right? Because this doesn't have the over-the-top, like extremely saturated synth sounds of the earlier ITZY tracks and albums. I mean, you know, a lot of at least those A-side songs, you know, it was always like very strong synth sounds that come in. And you would get a contrast between like the verse section, chorus section, and it's just. I mean, I still enjoy all those songs. You know, they're still really good. But it was very much like ITZY's main sort of style back then. At least those were some of the characteristics and qualities that composed their style, right? And now as they're moving forward, they're stepping like way outside of the box of that, at least, you know, from what I hear. And it's not just the mix, it's a lot of variations in the way that their vocals are delivered. And I mean, it's cool. It's like, it kind of makes sense. These things are always more intuitive than they seem because obviously if you've done one sort of style or had, one sort of approach to doing a style for a while, you're naturally going to say, well, how can I do it different? How about I don't do that, right? What if I do like something else instead? But I think that they're really getting an incredible amount of value out of the stylistic changes and these new, sort of approaches and these new deliveries and everything. It's quite enjoyable. They come up with things that are really cool and really interesting. It's just because this sounds different. It kind of kind of reminded me of the NCT 127, that favorite song, which was also like a vampire thing. I like, for some reason, this mix, a lot of the quirky little sounds in here remind me of some of the sounds that were in that song. So yeah, definitely a shift, right, for the group, for ITZY, but wildly entertaining. And my goodness, like the visuals are just off the charts, man. I'm like, I was like, I'm trying to pay attention, I'm trying to listen, but then Ryujin's giving me this look, and I'm just like, I forget what I'm thinking about. But it's really cool. This was actually a really cool, stylish, and interesting song to drop here, and it's quirky, it's counterintuitive, it's got really unique sounds in it, just things that I would not, at least not initially, even think to put together. That sort of crazy fluty sound that's going on, that sort of wonky sound that's all over the chorus section, and then those chromatic piano fills, those little runs in the verse sections. They're so, they are supposed to create this, strange, otherworldly type of feel to it. That's what that is. It's expressing a little bit of a little bit of magic, a little bit of mystic sort of energy coming in, and there's like the normal groove of everything that goes by, but then there's some other things that go on, right? Like that kind of strain your ability to explain them a little bit. It's like, this is a little bit weird. It's working, it's cool, but it's not, the normal thing, right, that happens. And so they're kind of reinforcing that suggestion, right, as far as what's going on musically there. Really interesting though, man. Really interesting, really cool. Excellent work by everybody, really. Yeji and Chaeryeong had the big dynamic parts in this song. Ryujin is just styling on everybody, and Yuna seems to put a nice like finishing touch on a lot of the verse sections, right? That was, as a section nears its completion, Yuna's like, if the dynamic level went up, she's like tapers it back down and brings it back into a very comfortable space. And so that's kind of how I see or have interpreted the distribution on the lines here. But it's cool. It's really actually quite interesting. This is one that I'm like, okay, I want to listen to this several times, to gain a actual sense of familiarity with it, because some of these elements are so like off the wall. I wouldn't expect them, like ever. But man, they continue to put out work, like a lot of work, and it keeps getting better, and it keeps just being unexpected. And it was like, okay, you're doing something different on me now, and you're doing something different on me again, and now I'm getting something completely different again. It's cool. I do hope that because I'm wondering about Leah. I'm sure she's okay, But the more stuff comes out, and it's like, okay, where's Leah? Like, it started to make me think, man. It started, I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on there, so I don't worry, because that's the only thing, right? I mean, since what, Born to Be, at least, right? Yeah, because she was there for the Kill My Doubt comeback in the album, the videos and everything to do with that. It wasn't until afterwards moving on. She was in Ringo. She did her parts there, or she was able to. It's only now it's in this Born to Be comeback, right? And it's like Leah would add just so much color. She does that. Like Leah, as far back as I can even remember, like everything I know of ITZY, Leah brings like these lighter, brighter colors and these softer energies and things, and it's just missing. It's just you know what I mean. It would have been interesting to throw it into a mix like this. I think it would have been perfect. Actually, I think it would have been of such a great quality to include in a song like this. But yeah, but that's the thing that I'm missing. Since the Born to Be video had dropped. Well, man, I'm gonna have to find out. So, because I'm starting to worry about it. But anyways, Mr. Vampire, ITZY, it keeps getting interesting. You know what I mean? It keeps getting more and more interesting, and they just keep getting better and better in every way.